You are watching Beyond Design, a video podcast that inspires and encourages architects, engineers, and aspiring construction industry professionals to develop their skills and pursue professional careers beyond design. I am Brian Ernest Regalado, an architect by profession practicing as a construction cost management specialist. Join me as I sit down with experts in the construction industry to talk about their professional practice, principles, processes, the lessons they have learned, and how they make an impact. Good evening, and thank you once again for tuning with us for another episode of Beyond Design, Women in the AEC Industry. So this is our sixth episode, and we're very privileged to have with us tonight Eleni Vasiloudi. So Eleni is a highly enthusiastic, motivated, committed, and determined project management consultant. She has a broad skill set, which includes managing project teams, creating environments for collaboration, and dealing with conflict resolution while optimizing the use of software tools to enhance efficiency. She has been involved in the design of pre-construction phases of high-end residential, commercial, and mixed-use developments in the UK. And her master's research on emotional intelligence played a catalytic role for her determination to make the construction industry a more inclusive, emotionally aware, and less confrontational place to work. So, once again, this is our sixth episode, and we welcome to the show Eleni Vasiloudi. Good evening, Eleni.
Good evening, Brian. Good afternoon to everyone watching from Central Europe.
Yeah. So, my good evening to the Filipinos who are watching in the Philippines, and to the rest of our friends in Europe, good afternoon. So it's such a pleasure to have you here with us tonight, Eleni, and I'm very thankful that you accepted the invitation. I know you're busy with work, even with a work from home arrangement. Isn't that right?
That's absolutely right, but it's a great pleasure to be with you today, Brian. Thank you for inviting me over.
Okay, so Eleni, we're very excited. I am very excited to talk about your expertise on emotional intelligence. One of the things that I think most men in this industry lack are the soft skills, and that is not that's probably, it could be intentional, it could be unintentional, but definitely, doing this show for the past five episodes, this is our sixth, made me realize how important women are in the AEC industry. I remember earlier on, I think it was Christina who shared with us how the presence of women in leadership actually fuses arguments in a very heated meeting. And so I really believe that to have women in the AEC industry having an active role is a plus for any project. And I know that your study will give us more insights into this topic. So we're very excited. But before we proceed to the main talk, to what you will share, we'd love to hear from you, or we'd love for you to tell us more about your background in terms of training and education before you became a construction project manager.
Yeah, absolutely. So I graduated from the Urban Planning and Development Department at the Faculty of Engineering in Greece, in my hometown in Thessaloniki. I think it was 2017, so like 3 years ago. And right after my graduation, I started working at an urban planning and GIS consultancy. I started as a graduate, so I started, with very basic tasks, like uh, I was a part of quite a big team. And we had, our responsibility was a very large public project in Greece.
Mm-hmm.
But it was only after 6 months that I was entrusted with more managerial responsibilities, I would say, and they promoted me to an assistant project manager to the project. And that came with the responsibility of training a team of 40 people. Most of them happened to be more experienced than myself, or even older, with families, with children. So that was my first experience as an assistant project manager. And after just a few months, I realized that it's not only about training these people and helping them achieve the project goals, but it's much more complex than that. And there are many levels to project management. One of which, quite central in my opinion, is having the human skills, the people skills needed to be good at what you do and be able to motivate and lift your team if possible. So that's when I realized I wanted to pursue a career in project management and that I needed to learn more. So I started looking up some courses in project management, which led me to the University of College in London, which accepted me in 2018, and I did a master's degree for a year in project and enterprise management. It was such a wonderful and quite challenging experience.
Mm-hmm.
It has always been my dream to live in London, and I was very fortunate to be accepted at UCL and spend a wonderful year there learning from some of the top professionals in the field. And then I thought, should I go back to Greece, or I'm already here, why not give it a chance and see what I can do with everything I have learned? So in January, I started working for a company called Adept Management Limited in central London. We specialize in design management, and we are also consultants. We are involved in every single phase of a project. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything about me.
Yeah. So based on that, what you are saying is that you the decision to become a project manager was a deliberate one, but it was one that had to happen, or the one that you made after after your graduate your obtaining your university degree, right? So
Um, so construction was never in the picture for me as I was growing
mm,
up. I mean, we had family friends, and even my father is a mechanical engineer himself. But if I may say, in Greece, the construction industry is not very popular among girls or women. So unless you're encouraged by maybe your family has an architectural practice or so, it's not a very popular decision among women. So while I was growing up, I was very passionate about history, and what better way of history to mark itself through buildings. So
mhm,
I was very passionate about architecture and passing on all ancient buildings in the world, really. But I never thought of myself as becoming an architect or a civil engineer. Um, but when I got into urban planning, I was amazed by the built environment. because it's such a complex degree, really, and has so many levels. It's not only about design and studios. It's also about economics. It's about the environment. It's about sustainability. It's about project management as well. So that was the point, I guess, that I realized how many opportunities the built environment can actually offer. Um, and then, as a person, I think I'm highly organized, and to a certain degree, I realized that I have been project managing my life when I became a project management consultant as a professional, which is very funny sometimes when I think about it. It was definitely a deliberate choice, but yes, it took me time, and I, I, I arrived where I am step by step.
Yeah. So you finished a degree in spatial planning and development as your undergraduate degree, and then you finished project management or enterprise management, uh, focusing on project management, right?
Construction.
And now you actually have two degrees there. You are organized. You said you have been project managing your life prior to that, but was there a struggle? Whether, I mean, you the first degree was longer, right? Um so probably more memories, more fruitful discussions, as again something that you took for a little over a year or two. After that, was there a struggle, or was it already very very clear that hey, there's no turning back for me, I'm going to pursue project management?
There were definitely moments where I would second guess my decision about going into construction, because ideally I could be a project manager in a different position or a different industry,
Mhm.
and that perhaps would be a less challenging thing for me to do. And when I became involved with the construction industry in the UK, specifically last year, when 2019, yeah, last year, when I was doing my research and I was talking with both male and female professionals, I would actually ask them the same question. Is it something that you undo? Are you still satisfied about your decision to be in the construction industry? So for me, I have to say that although it's very early, I don't think that I would go back, because construction is what gives you the fulfillment of actually seeing something on the ground.
Yeah.
It gives you it's an overwhelming feeling, really, to cross the street and point your finger maybe one day to my future family and say, no, I was part of that. I was part of helping do that, which is bigger than me and bigger than everyone else. And I think that's something that I would actually enjoy doing for the rest of my life.
Yeah. I yeah, I'd have to agree with what you said, that it gives one a good feeling having to walk the streets and see the work that you have been part of. Yeah, that's really something that gives um gives us a really strong sense of fulfillment. And I would have to say that I mean, in all of us in the AEC industry, we all do have process deliverables, but but I think as construction project managers, we are closer to our deliverable becomes the final product, right? We really, on a day-to-day basis, we push for the completion of that final deliverable, which is the product, the building itself. And yeah, and that's really something that gives us joy. I would have to agree with you. So before we proceed to the next question, Lenny, we just want to remind the audience that this is a live event. So if you have questions, please feel free to read to type your comments the comment section, and type your questions as well, and we will at best try to answer them. Just say who it is addressed to. Okay, so and we'd like to um, greet some of our friends who are watching right now. Uh, okay, Dimitrios. Gargalas. So yeah. Maybe you can read it for us.
All right, yeah, it says congratulations. It's actually addressed to my family, and they say good luck to me.
Okay, and then we also have Mariana. So I think they're mostly from Greece, right?
Yeah, apologies about the Greek comments, but I'm very happy to translate these. These are family friends as well, and they are sending their congratulations to this initiative, and they wish us good luck, and they say they're very proud.
Yeah, thank you for watching, Mariana, and have another one, Katerina Katuka. So I hope I pronounce it right.
Yeah, you actually you're doing excellent with Greek names.
So and
Um,
then
so again, many congratulations. I am waiting to watch live. Wishing you to be healthy and successful.
from Eva, congratulations, Eleni. Thank you, Eva, for watching with us, for watching us tonight. And from another one from Dimitris. So congratulations, Eleni. Thank you for watching. It's so good to see the support of our colleagues and friends in this initiative. And thank you very much for watching. Oh, and there's one. Hi, Nick.
Hi,
Thank you
Nick.
for watching tonight. I enjoy really seeing Nick in every show pop pop out in the comment section, and of course everybody else from ICPMA who are watching. Good evening. So yeah, let's continue with the question. So
Okay.
okay, okay, so when you enter the construction industry, I'm very sure that it was more inclusive than it was before during the time I entered, which was almost 20 years ago. And in fact, I noticed, I'm not sure if it's the same for the rest of the world, but in the Philippines, there seems to be an equal number of female professionals, even in schools. So I just wonder if at that point where you had to apply for a job as a PM, if gender still played a role, or the gender still was a consideration for you getting hired into in that job that you applied for.
So the process of applying for jobs, especially when you are a recent graduate, even with some limited experience, can be a very stressful period for everyone. And I'm afraid that I can't be sure if my gender, I don't think that I did because, well, I talk from experience in terms of I know the people that I work with now, so I don't think that they would choose me just for my gender.
Mm.
Um, However, when I was interviewing with companies, let's say, it would be uncommon to be interviewed by a woman.
Mhm.
So that right there might be an indication that there are definitely more males in the industry. And from a number of conversations that I've been quite fortunate enough to have with some colleagues, I know that gender imbalance is becoming increasingly important in construction industry, and every company has a goal to increase the number of female employees. However, I think it's also very important to have the appropriate skills. So I don't think that anyone, either male or female, will be hired just because of their gender. I can probably tell you that more and more companies are trying to create a workforce that is actually maybe not perfectly balanced when it comes to gender, but I'm glad to see more and more women in meeting rooms. Um, Perhaps even more than it used to be 20 years ago. And again, I would say that this is specific to the UK because if I had to speak for Greece, for example, the picture here is completely different.
Okay, that's in another. So in Greece, it's still more male dominated industry.
Purely male dominated.
Purely male.
I would say that at university, for example,
Hmm.
you are probably likely to enter into a classroom at university and see the same amount of girls, the same amount of guys being, either civil engineers or architecture or architects or mechanical engineers, let's say. However, when you step into the professional world, it's quite different from what you see in the classroom because it's still a very male-dominated industry, and I think most women are into architecture, which is more design focused and less site focused. So, and project management is not a distinct subject yet. So we don't have that complex or big scale project. So that's probably understandable. But yeah, if I were to focus in the UK industry, I would say that it's probably intimidating, maybe for a young female to be interviewed just by males, but hang in there, it's possible.
So you've been practicing for less than 10 years, and
You
how
know?
has it been so far? Right? Have you had any experience that made you think that why am I here?
If I'm being honest, not yet. So yes, it has been just a few months, starting in January, and I was fortunate enough to be intervened by a global pandemic. So working has been a different experience with working from home and let's be honest, many of the projects being paused or the uncertainty that is in the air. But I have to say that the first month, the learning curve is extremely steep, and London is such a wonderful city with so many amazing projects happening. So, as a Greek girl coming in a city with skyscrapers, and so many projects happening all over the city at the same time, even the projects that I have been involved, even at my fairly junior level, they blow your mind. The complexity, the large scale, the numbers, even when you talk, about the budget, the cost of such a project. These are things that don't cease to fascinate me to this very day. And I consider myself very, very lucky. The people that work with me are also very, open-minded. I never felt that they would discriminate either on my gender or my seniority. They make me feel appreciated, and that goes for everyone in the industry that I have met so far. And what more can we ask, really? We all want to feel appreciated about the work that we do, no matter how small it might be,
Yeah.
compared, to the complexity of project management.
Yeah. it's good to, it's really a good experience for the young and starting to have the seniors extend a helping hand to set us up, to set you up for a successful career. And yeah, and that's very commendable for the senior professionals to do that. And I hope that that will encourage you also to do the same when I'm sure you will be a senior in this industry also. Yeah.
Thank
And
you very much. I really hope that I can be half as good as the senior people that I have been lucky enough to work with so far. Because what you said is actually very important. No junior person can achieve his or her full potential without, not only the technical support, because technically, even sometimes junior people might be more technically advanced than the senior people in the industry, but the emotional support and the psychological support that you receive is very, very important. And thank you to every senior person out there who's trying and helping younger people than myself.
yeah. And before we proceed, let me just read some of the comments. We have from Electra Vasiloudi watching from Swanage, UK. Congratulations, Eleni. Thank you for watching, Electra. And from Leah Chatsi.
That very
Okay, okay.
perfect. Congratulations are addressed, and they wish to my parents to be healthy and be proud of me.
Okay.
I'm
Thank you
sorry.
for watching. Yeah. And then, hi, Christina. Thanks for watching. And she says, I
Well,
fully agree with
hi.
Eleni that London, UK is a great place to work as a CPM. Hi, Christina. Thank you for the support and for tuning in. Uh, so let's continue. Being young and an expert at something, I believe are not mutually exclusive conditions, and I believe that one can be an expert at something even at a young age. In fact, I believe that one of the things that we have to achieve, or one of the things that we need to do to advance this industry in the new normal, is digital transformation. And I'm very sure that the younger professionals will lead the way in making this a reality. So I invited you because I was particularly drawn to your master's dissertation project. As I reflected on what we had over the past episodes, I realized that women in the AEC seem to have a lot more soft skills and natural concern for interpersonal dynamics and issues that are frequently overlooked by men. No offense to the men out there, but that's coming from me. That's my realization. So women, I should say, are really indispensable contributors to project value and project success. So can you tell us what inspired you to research the topic of emotional intelligence?
Yes, of course. So it was very early during my master's, only during the first term, when one day a professor walked in and instead of a lecture, he put on the movie 12 Angry Men. So the movie is about 12 angry men sitting around the table. They are the jury of a case that tries to decide whether a young boy is innocent or not with regards to um, murdering somebody. So everyone in the table, it's 12 very, very busy men. The movie was black and white, just to put it in context. And everyone was actually making sure that the boy was responsible for the murder. There was just one single person, one man, that had some doubts, and he felt confident enough to express those doubts. And slowly, he actually turned everybody in the table around. And at the end of the movie, the boy was actually innocent, and that was that professor's introduction on emotional intelligence.
Mhm.
That was mind blowing when he tried to address the topic of emotional intelligence to a classroom full of young women and men, and he tried to make us realize the importance of the soft skills and
Mhm.
how you can have logical explanations for everything, but sometimes not everything can be put into words.
Mhm.
So the very first time that I heard about the topic, it became very special to me. I felt that I could relate. I felt that that was what I needed as a professional. That was the missing part that I was looking for in order to be a better project manager. So while learning about the construction industry in the UK, I realized that soft skills are very, very underrated. And the industry itself has been accused many, many times about failing to deliver, and some projects, running over budget or, not being delivered in time. And it seems impossible, really, because we have all the technical skills. This is how we do it. Why are we failing? So I thought maybe it's worth looking into the soft skills after all.
Yeah. So yeah. So that's. I think that's really true. Having been in the industry for 20 years, many of the projects could have gone wrong in spite of all the superior technical management if people just threw everybody just lost their or never exercised control over their emotions, or probably never exercised a more, how would I say it, acceptable or proper emotional intelligence behaviors. But so that's really interesting. We'd like for you to tell us more about that by sharing the key components of your research, and which were the questions asked in the research.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I already mentioned that I was very interested on the topic of emotional intelligence. But there were two other key components that were also of great interest to me. The first one was the project value itself, how we define it, how do we perceive it as project managers, how do our clients perceive the value, and do we have the same view on this point? And as a woman myself, I also felt that gender balance was highly overlooked in in academia, in research, and all the views that we now accept, acknowledge, were mainly based on androcentric views, which is it might have been acceptable for the past years, but as women enter into the construction industry, I think that we need more inclusive research to move forward and achieve, greatest project value. So these were the three main components that gave me the boost to research on this topic, and I think emotional intelligence might be the glue that holds everything together. So I first started looking into the project value itself, and especially how project managers define it, how they perceive it, and then how clients think of the project value. So naturally, there are many different theories and many different scales to measure the project value. It can be, time, cost, quality. It can be meeting the client's objectives. It can be creating a unique project that the world has never seen before. And after researching for a bit, I realized that there was a shift towards the value of the relationships in projects. And there were researchers that could indicate that value is created into projects by people. So it was very, very important to look into the relational part of project value. The second component was for me to study about women in construction. And historically, the levels of women in the industry have been very, very low. I think the latest statistics in the UK, in 2017, they indicate that there are no more than 15% of women in the UK construction industry. This is a very, very low percentage, and it also depends on where you look. So I would say that there are more women now in perhaps managerial positions, but if we were to visit a site, we wouldn't see as many there.
Mm-hmm.
The industry has been accused in the past, and well, in constructive criticism, of course, because everyone working in the industry wants the projects to be successful in the end. There has been an indication that clients are becoming more and more interested in softer skills like understanding, listening, being in a meeting room that is not, 12 angry men around the table. There is less confrontation. And I would say that these characteristics have been highly associated with the female sex. So while researching about women in construction, it became evident that there are so many barriers that women have to overcome in order to enter the industry, survive it, and stay in it. Because there are many women that have left the industry after 10 years of experience, 20 years of experience, because they couldn't take it. So one of the most important things is the education part. Although women have the opportunity to become architects or civil engineers or structural engineers, while growing up, they are not as encouraged to enter the construction industry. Or it's very difficult for women to balance their work life and their personal, their family life. I would say that in most part of the world, females are mainly entrusted with the family responsibility. So it's easier for a man perhaps to enter in construction industry than a female. And although there have been so many benefits recognized already about women in every work environment, really, like bringing different perspectives, bringing innovation and creativity around the table, diffusing the tension so many times, there are still the industry is still unappealing to the majority of females. And now moving to the third component of this research, the emotional intelligence part. So emotional intelligence is actually the ability to understand and to perceive accurately not only our own emotions, but the emotions of other people as well. And then managing to regulate our own emotions and express them in a way that helps us and the person that we are talking to grow intellectually, professionally, or emotionally. This is a very interesting notion, and it seems to be easier said than done. But naturally, this is what makes it so interesting to me. So emotional intelligence started to become like a popular concept around the late 90s, and that happened due to the advancement at the neurobiology department. The human brain became easier to be studied and understood, not only in terms of thinking, but also in terms of feeling. So emotional intelligence has been studied, and its benefits have been recognized in so many industries. Naturally, construction industry realized its benefits as well, although slightly later than other sectors and other industries. That it was actually evident that not only emotional intelligence can have, so it starts from the person itself. There are many different theories suggesting that emotional intelligence is something that you are born with, or it's something that you can actually develop as you become more educated or you become more sensitive about this topic.
Mhm.
My personal opinion is that the truth lies somewhere in between. So you
Mhm.
might have, a natural inclination as a person to be emotionally intelligent, but there are definitely ways to increase the awareness. Um, it is very much a process. So it starts with self-awareness, and then you move on to self-management, which can lead to social awareness, and then eventually to relationship management. These three, very, very broad by themselves, but when put together, I think they might make sense.
Mhm.
These three components led me to three very, very important questions that I had to address. So I would say the first one is, does the gender influence how we perceive value in construction projects? The second one was how the male typical and female typical emotional intelligence are exhibited. How do we address them differently? And then finally, can emotional intelligence enhance, boost the project value further than quality, time, and cost?
Okay, so that's yeah, that's quite a tough that's quite tough to digest. But you know, yeah, I remember there was I'm not sure, there was this study I read that it was, I think, yeah, you're correct, that was done in the 90s. It's very famous, the marshmallow test, wherein kids were tested and they said those who were able to manage their reaction by not eating the marshmallow later on proved to be successful. So yeah, so and that's the only test that I remember. But it's interesting to note that you when you said that historically women played the involvement of women is quite low in the construction industry, and I think that may be varying from place to place. But you know it would be interesting to another truth about our industry is that it has been underperforming for the longest time. So I wonder, and it would be interesting to see a study correlating the underperformance of the industry due to not having much women to complement the male roles and the male emotional intelligent behaviors to push this industry forward. Yeah, that's. I wish we had more time to really go into the details of this. But Eleni, can you? So, having studied those major components, can you share with us the key takeaways or findings of what you have been exploring about enhancing project value through the complementarity of male and female emotional intelligence behaviors, or what's it? EI?
So, before going into the findings themselves, um, I feel obliged to say that my research was a qualitative one, which means that I didn't collect, a huge sample of data, but I interviewed 12 different project managers. And the focus here, I would say that is in the richness of information rather
Mhm.
than generalizing. So
Mhm.
I would just like to say that what I'm about to share with you is very much the result, the findings of a master's research, but we must be careful of how we generalize it.
Mhm.
Um, so with regard to the first question, which was, is the project value influenced by the gender itself? And if so, how is that happening? I would say that the findings of my research indicated that gender is not a major factor that influences the value, how male and female project managers perceive project value. So for both genders, like collaboration and teamwork and being able to deliver the agreed deliverables, it was of great importance. However, there was a slight difference on how female and male project managers perceived the quality factor. So what was very interesting to me is that when I would ask a male project manager, what is project value to you? When they were talking about quality, they would focus very much on the work ethic and the influence that their work has in the built environment, how they contribute in making the built environment a better place. While on the other hand, females would very much focus on the qualitative aspect of creating and building relationships with the client or with their teams, which was very interesting to me. Also, when we were talking about value, another factor came to the surface, which was not intentional, I would say. So both female and male project managers suggested that project value will be definitely increased by the industry's modernization. And they said three things about that. We need gender balance, we need to advance our technology, and we need to increase our emotional awareness. And I had nothing to do with that. It was all them. It came out of our conversations, and that was very, very important as a finding, I think, because it seems that most project managers know the way forward. With regards to the second topic and how male typical and female typical emotional intelligence are exhibited, I was actually fascinated by the following fact. So the first thing that came up was the emotional vocabulary of males and females. So males, naturally, emotional intelligence is quite a sensitive topic. So I was very careful not to cause any distress with my questions. So I wouldn't address emotional intelligence as, as an entity, but I would talk generally with them about emotions. So when the topic of emotions would come up, everyone could probably tell that the vocabulary of a male would be rather limited and very, very well structured in the professional setting. However, males were feeling much more confident to express their emotions in the workplace. On the other hand, females were the vocabulary of the female project manager was richer. Females would appear to be, more self-confident about expressing their emotions to me. However, they would be unlikely to share their emotionality in the workplace because they wouldn't want to be perceived, as too emotional, or they even might suggest that many women in the industry might use a persona that they would have a male persona for their professional environment, so they wouldn't be seen as emotional. The other interesting fact was the reason why males and females use their emotional intelligence. So once again, males will use their emotionality to gain access to information that would help the project move forward in a more timely manner. On the other hand, females would use their emotional intelligence to create trust with the client and to establish a longer lasting relationship with their team, which was actually very fascinating. And moving forward to the last question that I I had to address in this research, how can emotional intelligence enhance the project value? That led to two very important findings. The first one was that emotional intelligence can actually be measured in terms of how it boosts the performance of projects. So when you are emotionally intelligent, you are more likely to engage into conversations that are more meaningful, more efficient, and thinking about how much everyone is paid in the industry by hour, sitting around the table and wasting maybe time in confrontation while you can use your emotional intelligence to actually achieve the goal of this conversation, of every meeting, in less time, that actually can be measured in saving time and cost right there. But I would say it is much more important how it contributes in the non-quantifiable aspect of projects. So to that respect, emotional intelligence is very much about how the project manager or the project leader uses it in a project setting. There are two levels to that. So when the project manager interacts with the client and he is emotionally intelligent, it's much more likely to understand the client better, to understand what the client is, precious about, what they care about. And that means something, because if the client is very persistent for a specific, component of the project, then that means something. And the sooner you understand that as a project manager, the better you can deliver. And then it's also important to understand how clients want to interact, or how they want to be updated about the project. And that can actually lead to the client's delight in the end, which is very, very important. The final finding, and I think that's my favorite part of my research, is the role of the project manager with the team and then the client. And that these are not my words. Somebody that participated in my research actually used this term. They said that the project manager acts like a thermostat, an emotional thermostat in the team. So when the project leader is emotionally intelligent, they are more likely to increase the morale of the team, to motivate everyone, and encourage the team to be themselves, to be the real you in the working environment. So when you have a happy team, then the team is much more likely to go into greater lengths to make the client happy. And although you can't put a price on it, not everything can be, measured with price. The client and the project are much more successful in the end.
Yeah. So I guess um, it's very possible for a project to meet its project objectives of finishing on time, within cost, within the given scope and quality required of the project, and yet relationships will be adversarial after. It's very possible, and this is, I've seen this in projects where emotions were just allowed to freely express it themselves uncontrolled in, in meetings, and it piles up in such a way that you know people don't want this the people in the project team end up not wanting to work together again in the next projects, and that actually affects a portfolio or a program, right? Yeah.
That's absolutely right, because it's much more easier, uh, not only for the project manager himself or herself, but it's also better for the project or the portfolio itself if we were to have excellent relationships with the people that we work with, and then have some repeat business. That would save us the time of getting to know each other again. And if you know how I operate, and if I know how you like to work, then that would be something that we would pick up so much easier on our next project.
Yeah, and Well, before we proceed to the next questions, we'd like to read some of the comments. So, from Nick, I'd like to ask Eleni if she thinks that new methods, technologies, and ways of working will help women to gain senior roles in our area of business.
Thank you, Nick. That's an excellent question. I think that technologies are new technologies and new methods are much more likely to help women establish their position and perhaps increase their confidence in the industry, because uh, being, having the skills and the technical ability to deliver a project is not always considered to be a new challenge. So I would say that mostly, I don't want to generalize, but I feel that men are much more confident when it comes, to hard skills. And even though a woman might be equally competent with a specific skill or a specific technology, they are not equally confident on showing that, on expressing it. So I think that if we were to adapt to some new technologies and some new methods, that would be an opportunity for women to gain a quick start and find themselves on the same level as male at the same pace. Yeah.
So, thank you, Nick, for that excellent question. And we have Kyran McCarthy. Well done, Eleni, on your work. Thank you for watching, Kyran. And we have another one from Christina. Your findings are very interesting, and I can relate to a lot of that you are saying. Thank you for sharing. My 12-year-old son is watching this and agrees.
Oh, thank you, Christina. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Christina, for that. Um, so we'd like so it's so after your study, how has the results of your study affected the way you do your role as a CPM?
Well, I would say that much of the work on emotional intelligence becomes on the personal level, because it's about self awareness and self management in the beginning. So, for every single person to be able to be emotionally intelligent in the workplace, I think that practicing being emotionally intelligent with your personal relationships is a very good start, because you have a trial and error period, and people are very unlikely to be mad at you if they are your friends and your family. So the more that you find yourself in environments or settings that might seem adversarial or confrontational, then the more you have to try to regulate your own emotions, because it's natural for people. Every single person can get angry. Every single person can get frustrated in a meeting. And like I said, again, I don't want to generalize, but men are much more likely to express this feeling in a meeting room, and then um, you would see women trying to either not become mad themselves, or trying to diffuse the tension. So I would say that every single time that I am with my team or with a client or with the contractors team, I try to understand where these people come from in sense of what do they want to achieve. It's important to be present in terms of the technical characteristics of the project, but it's also very important to understand the people, the person that talks about those characteristics. And it has made me much more aware of how I'm feeling about a certain situation and what is the best appropriate way to express myself, or even what is the most appropriate way to put the other person's the other person's word into, a sentence that will make much more sense for the both of us. So it's a process, really. I wouldn't say that we can get there in one day or in 1 year or even 10 years. It comes with seniority, no doubt on that. But I think the very first step is to be self-aware. And then the more you try to be understanding and the more focused you are on listening on what the other person says, the better the chances are that you will end up with a mutual understanding of the situation.
Yeah, that is actually an advice for those. Yeah, it is a good advice for those who are starting. Yeah, to exercise self-awareness and really manage yourself, especially in this project settings. So do you think, other than that, do you think you can give us a few tips on how to apply this in the workplace in terms of administrative controls, policy, or other means? Or another way of saying this, asking this question is: do you think you can regulate emotional intelligence in the workplace?
Um, I would say that depends,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also part of the self-awareness again. So if I feel that the person sitting next to me is emotionally intelligent, or is willing to work on his awareness or her awareness, then I would be much more eager to engage into a more sincere conversation. But there are many times, and that's absolutely fine again, that you can understand that emotional awareness is not part of that person's vocabulary. My advice would be try to be as open-minded as possible about where the other person is coming from. Although I don't have many years of experience in the industry, so these are not, pearls of wisdom from my part, but from what I have seen so far, I would say that people tend to be protective of their silos, their own work, no matter what that work is. So be very careful to be appreciative of their work, and um, be aware that every person considers their work differently. So it has to do with culture, it has to do with gender. No matter where you are, in project control, either project leadership, either talking with an architect about the design. It's very important to understand how this person feels about their work. Are they completely impartial? Do they see it as another part of the process, or are they very, very attached to it? And then try to regulate what you want to say and what you want to achieve during this meeting with that person. Try to regulate your response and your emotions, so you will get to a result that everybody is happy with, and nobody will be offended in the end.
So we we just have one more comment, and this is from Alex. So Fulis Papadopoulos. Great talk and great findings, Eleni. Emotional intelligence can add so much to any team and project in every industry. And findings like that are very important in normalizing emotions as integral parts rather than distractions. Thank you, Alex, for that. And then moving forward, Eleni, you are also a member of ICPMA, and you have, I believe, you started as a YICPMA. Is that right? Or
I started as an ICPMA
oh,
right away. Yeah.
oh, okay. So how has it helped you in establishing your CPM career?
Well, so let me say that my first contact with ICPMA was during my interviews actually for emotional intelligence, and I was fortunate enough to be able to interview not only Nick but Christina, the present president. So when you meet someone, usually you can get a sense of how inspirational they are. And both Nick and Christina made a huge impact on how I felt about the construction industry. Then when they talked about what ICPMA does, how they promote the best practices in the industry, how they celebrate amazing projects, but also they celebrate, diversity, they celebrate the young people, and how they encourage young people like myself to be confident, to be empowered in the construction industry. That was very important. I felt that um, I was part of a community that shares the same values that I do, and that's what made me want to be involved. So I have been a member of ICPMA since 2019, and this year I became a member of the steering committee. I have to say that, first of all, it brings a different perspective to a person when they become part of a community that is as global as ICPMA is. Because the more you think that you know something, and the more you think that, okay, I'm getting a grasp of this, I think I'm up to date with something, then you happen to meet and have a conversation with somebody who works on different projects in a different part of the world, and they share with you their knowledge and experiences, and you find yourself, relating to some situations. So realizing how the built environment is much bigger than we are, and how broad it is. I mean, London is beautiful, Athens is beautiful, I'm sure Manila is beautiful, but overall, the built environment is defined by so many different professionals and so many different projects. And being able to get a glimpse of all this diversity is truly fascinating. Really fascinating.
So that's wonderful to hear. And for those who are watching, actually we I got to meet Eleni through the steering committee also of ICPMA, and it has been a wonderful experience being in a team of global experts in the field of construction project management. And yeah, um, there are many things you don't read from standards in books, but you get to know them through informal sharing with the rest of with different construction managers from all over the world, and ICPMA does
With
that.
that,
Yeah. So and so how do you see your career being enhanced by your membership in ICPMA?
so starting just in January, and having to face a global pandemic at the same time, that can be quite intimidating for a young professional, because you feel that this is bigger than you. And ICPMA is has given me so far much more confidence in myself, to be able to not give up, and to be much more confident about what the future holds, because it made me realize that you don't have to be the expert of everything.
Mhm.
In project management, sometimes this feels very stressful because there are so many different professionals that you are involved with, and you have to have a relationship with in order to move the project forward. So realizing that, there are other people there that are experts on something that you're not, but they are eager to share this expertise with you. This is something that you don't find every day.
Yeah.
I have felt confident enough to share my findings here with you, and I would be happy to share the research again at the international conference next year. Fingers crossed, if everything is well with COVID-19. But I have to say that being involved with the steering committee, it has given me some responsibilities that, you know, made me step outside of my comfort zone. And if you want to grow, this is something that you have to do. I know that sometimes it can feel like a lot to take in, but it's a beautiful, beautiful challenge. And for a young person that tries to do their best, I think that joining ICPMA has been a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for my career. I can tell that the people that I work with feel that I'm involved with the industry. I'm doing my small part to move things forward, to increase awareness, to perhaps even encourage some women to think about it. Even thinking about it is a big step sometimes. So yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm very much convinced, having been a member, that regardless of where you are, whether you're starting young as a CPM, or whether you're starting a CPM career at in the middle of, after having practicing at a good number of years doing something else, or whether you're probably a seasoned CPM, ICPMA is really a place for where we can still experience growth in our careers. And I'd say in our careers as CPMs, construction project managers, but also in terms of relationships, establishing global relationships. So thank you very much, Eleni. This topic on emotional intelligence, while we are experiencing this global pandemic, I think it's all the more that we need to exercise it. Having to work close yet far from the people we've gotten used to work with almost face to face, it's actually a challenge too, in our emotions and in our well-being. So I hope we can talk about this more some other time. But yeah, and one more before we wrap this up. There's one more one more comment here from Spiros Kutan Congratulations, Eleni. Thank you, Spiros, for watching. So, okay, so this has really been a productive interview, Eleni, and it's such a joy to have you here in our sixth episode of Beyond Design: Women in the AEC Industry. And we'd like to see you more in the other series that we will do. And as we come to a close, I would just like you to give your last few words of encouragement to our audience.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for having me. Really, it was so wonderful to talk about these and hopefully increase awareness around the emotionality, not only in the construction industry but overall. It has to be a topic much more popular, and it's not something that we are afraid to touch. Emotions are part of every single person, and it's important to be confident enough to show those. So thank you to everyone that joined in today, and thank you all for your comments and your wonderful, wonderful support. Uh, Perhaps what I would like to say in conclusion is that Right now, it seems that as an industry, we are in an emotional intelligence journey. It's just that not every organization or every individual is not the same stage yet. But I feel confident, and I think it becomes more and more evident that the situation becomes more and more mature every day, and things are changing. So hopefully, we are moving towards a much more emotionally aware industry. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Eleni. And that was fast. Time is really fast, and yeah, we'll have you again some other time. You know,
Would be
we
delighted.
are thinking of doing a series on the better way of doing projects, or in as we advance this industry in the new normal, and EI would really play a very big role in that. So thank you very much, Eleni. Okay, so there you have it. Thank you once again for watching us for another episode of Beyond Design Women in the AEC Industry. So this has been a pleasant interview with Eleni, and we'd like to see more of her in the other series that we will be doing on this show. So before we end this, I would like to remind everyone that Beyond Design airs every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Manila Philippine Standard Time, 2 p.m. Central European Standard Time, and 1 p.m. British Standard Time. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and we look forward to seeing you once again next week for another episode of Beyond Design Women in the AEC Industry.